Welcome to Objectionable. In this episode, we engage warp drive, close the cargo bay doors, and remember that in space, nobody can hear you mitigate. Yes, the world of science fiction loves a trial. Without getting too philosophical about it, there is no surprise that some of our best episodes of sci-fi stalwarts are those with legal proceedings. That's because they all deal with the big questions of what it is to be human, alive, empirical, at war, racist, xenophobic, homophobic, transphobic, and so on. Because if we have problems on this little rock, you can be pretty sure they'll be much more involved when we get past launching Teslas into orbit. Not so much law in this one, this is mainly about the ideas and a little bit about the advocacy. Jean-Luc Picard reminding us of his RSC pedigree in every geek's favourite trial in the episode Measure of a Man. The premise is that Starfleet think the android Mr. Data is their property. Data and his learned counsel Jean-Luc Locutus Picard is arguing au contraire, mon ami. The judge in this trial is an arch nemesis of the good captain, so there's more than just a little bit of closing speech going on here. Poor old William Sexpest Riker has been forced to argue on behalf of Starfleet and to condemn his Meccano mate to being classified as a talking toaster. Elsewhere in this trial, we see the gropey commander flick Mr. Data's power switch, not a euphemism, and cut his strings.
Your Honor, a courtroom is a crucible. In it we burn away irrelevancies until we are left with a pure product, the truth, for all time. Now, sooner or later, this man, or others like him, will succeed in replicating Commander Data. Now, the decision you reach here today will determine how we will regard this creation of our genius. It will reveal the kind of a people we are, what he is destined to be. It will reach far beyond this courtroom and this one android. It could significantly redefine the boundaries of personal liberty and freedom, expanding them for some, savagely curtailing them for others.
There's nothing wrong with Jean-Luc's speech here, but arguably there is a common mistake in television closing speeches. That is, that they do not address the actual issue for the tribunal. Here, he begins with the strong line that the courtroom is a crucible to burn away irrelevancies, etc., etc., more suited to a jury than a judge, but whatever. The judge here is being asked to determine whether Data is alive, effectively. Alive, therefore, cannot be owned. Whilst it's true that the Federation of Planets appears to have some vestiges of the common law system, i.e. the judges will interpret the law to fill in the blanks left by their parliament, it seems unlikely that the law relating to artificial intelligence would still, by Data's time, be so up in the air. It's later resolved with legislation in the Star Trek universe, but given that legislators in 2021 on Earth are actually looking at this very question already, maybe the wheels do grind a little slowly.
Are you prepared to condemn him and all who come after him to servitude and slavery? Your Honor, Starfleet was founded to seek out new life. Well, there it sits.
Seek out new life. Well, there it sits. A great line delivered with artistic flair.
Waiting. You wanted a chance to make law. Well, here it is. Make it a good one.
The judge's very busy eyebrow and crikey what shall I do expulsion of breath conveys how difficult this question is, but of course everybody knows Mr. Data is alive, he had a girlfriend and everything. Right, next clip, it cannot get better than the mighty Star Trek. Battlestar Galactica, the trial of Gaius Baltar. Not the original Galactica sadly, but you can't have everything.
Your Honours, the defence would like to change our plea to guilty.
So this fellow was on trial for helping the Cylons to attack some colonies whilst he was president, or something.
This man is our enemy, and if there's one thing that's good in war, that is right and just and proper, it's slaughtering our enemy! Getting some righteous payback!
An odd speech for defence counsel. Shocking a jury is a thing, but this feels a little over the top. Shouting at a tribunal, sarcasm as to your client's plea, all pretty big no-nos. But a jury speech can be rendered more effective with a little colour, just maybe not quite this much.
What are we waiting for? Let's just kill him now! Justice of the mob. It's what they want. Especially her. She's been wanting this for over a year now. Ever since he beat her in a free and fair election of the people. Now she gets a chance to exact her revenge upon a man whose only real crime is bowing to the inevitable. Gaius Baltar saved the lives of the people on New Caprica, where Laura Roslin would have seen us all dead, victims of a battle we had no hope in winning. I don't know about you, but I'm glad she wasn't the president when the Cylons arrived and said, surrender or die. I owe my life to Gaius Baltar and the decision he made that day.
And saying that the defendant made a decision that involved people dying instead of another decision that would involve more people dying is not one that would often run in court. Again though, big questions of morality and ethics in space. Here it's Philippa Foot's trolley problem, but with swooshy-eyed robots. Are you a space utilitarian? On to Stargate SG-1, Skara's triad, whatever that is. The issue is whether one person should die or another person should remain subjugated, something about symbionts.
Tollan law does not provide for a penalty of death. Is that correct?
Questioning the judge, not something one does in a closing speech, but this is more like legal submissions. Effectively, a legal submission that the court cannot order a death, which it will have to do if it interferes with the status quo.
It is.
Then I wish to point out the futility of this triad. A Goa'uld needs a host to survive. This is a biological fact beyond our control.
Just a side note, there is so much terracotta in that courtroom. It looks like a garden centre.
If you award priority to Skara, then it is as a death sentence for Chlorel.
Of course, if you flip that around, you got Skara on death row.
Yes. But as you proved earlier in Triad, the host survives.
I don't like the sneery advocate, and turning submissions into a conversation between the parties is not just unorthodox, it's simply not done in any jurisdiction that I can name. Odd how it's used so often in American television, though.
Yeah.
We concede this point. Therefore, if you award priority to Chlorel, both host and symbiote live.
Yeah. One lives freely, the other lives as a slave.
We would put forth that life as a slave is not life at all.
We would put forward that. No. Using the future conditional tense in submissions is as annoying as hell. It's the mark of a very inexperienced advocate or a not very good advocate, perhaps. Best advocacy is either, it is submitted that, or, better still, just say the thing you want to say without any preamble.
And if you want to save both lives, give us Skara, and you take Chlorel. The Toker can put him in another host for all I care.
Who, Colonel? Perhaps he would volunteer?
No.
Perhaps you could find someone who would choose to be a host.
Pragmatism. Why not refrain from killing anybody and see if there are volunteers? Can't help but feel that this would have been canvassed before the parties were actually in court, of course. The real heavy-duty sci-fi now, the Orville. This episode serves up some Black Mirror-esque dystopia in the form of getting enough likes or upvotes as a way of society deciding if you did it wrong. So, no need for good police station representation, just good PR. Well, I think we can all think of examples of that in the real world, but I'm not allowed to tell you any of them because we'll get sued.
Are you supposed to be my lawyer or something?
Your what?
My lawyer.
I'm not familiar with that term.
You know, with everything I've seen today, I'm not the least bit surprised.
I'm your publicity officer. I'm here to help guide you through your apology tour.
This first part sounds interesting as an idea. After all, the justice system does act effectively in the name of society, but it falls apart when you consider how very badly trial by Twitter or by the media is already working.
Okay, wait. Now I'm really lost. What the hell is that?
You don't know what an apology tour is? John, they happen every day. How can you not be aware?
Let's say I'm not aware, okay? Let's say, right, I'm the dumbest son of a bitch you've ever met. Now, with that in mind, why don't you explain my situation to me?
Okay. You performed a disrespectful act on a statue commemorating frontier hero Mel Gibson. It was caught on video and uploaded to the master feed. You received over 1 million downvotes from the public, which makes what you did a crime against the state. You will now begin an apology tour, during which the people will vote on whether or not they believe your sincerity. If your downvotes remain under 10 million, you'll be free to go.
Wait. All that crap you just said, that's real? You gotta be kidding me.
That's how the justice system works, which I think you know.
Okay, wait, so what happens if they don't believe me?
You will undergo social correction to prevent future transgressions.
What's that, social correction?
You will receive a series of neurological treatments to pacify any and all potentially negative impulses.
It falls apart yet further when you hear the downside. Mandatory bodily intervention. It's like A Clockwork Orange never happened, isn't it? That said, the evidence that this dystopia is too close to reality is when you ask the general public what they would do to just about any criminal. Lock them up, throw away the key, cut the bits off, hang them. And lastly, it's my favourite serial in Doctor Who history, Trial of a Time Lord, in which walking jumble sale Doctor Number 6 faces a trial for being an interfering git who endangers lots of lives and is generally bad and that. Whovians will know that Colin was right about this. The Time Lords are a bunch of wrong-uns.
All my travellings throughout the universe, I have battled against evil, against power-mad conspirators. I should have stayed here. The oldest civilization. Decadent, degenerate, and rotten to the core. Power-mad conspirators, Daleks, Sontarans, Cybermen. They're still in the nursery compared to us.
But here's the thing, I actually rather like the Doctor's advocacy here. He's not really making any legal argument, but I'm not really sure what Gallifreyan law says about being a space git. But his delivery, save for a little shout, is bold and effective. You go, Doc. Ignore Langford. She was only there to scream every few minutes.
10 million years of absolute power. That's what it takes to be really corrupt.
Take it easy, Doc.
When on trial before the Oxo family mum, and with the Master on your side, anything can happen.
Doctor, these unseemly outbursts...
Unseemly outbursts? If I hadn't visited Ravelot, as I then thought of it, the High Council would have kept this outrage carefully buried, as presumably they have for several centuries.
I must agree. You have an endearing habit of blundering into these things, Doctor, and the High Council took full advantage of your blunder.
Explain that.
Oh yeah, major spoiler here, the Valeyard, i.e. the prosecutor, is thought at this point anyway to be the extracted evil of the Doctor who's trying to get shot of him in order to get his life, all of which makes no sense in current Doctor Who canon, but you know, wibbly wobbly, timey-wimey and so on.
They made a deal with the Valeyard, or as I've always known him, the Doctor, to adjust the evidence, in return for which he was promised the remainder of the Doctor's regeneration.
This is clear. Just a minute! Did you call him the Doctor?
There is some evil in all of us, Doctor, even you. The Valeyard is an amalgamation of the darker sides of your nature, somewhere between your 12th and final incarnation. And I may say you do not improve with age.
Madam, this revelation should halt this trial immediately. Surely even Gallifreyan law must acknowledge that the same person cannot be both prosecutor and defendant.
Fair point, or is it? What better person to know the mind of a defendant and thus be able to prosecute him than the defendant himself? Actually, as a legal principle, that's not a great idea because a trial must be fair and that arrangement lacks independence, even without the prospect of stealing delicious regeneration mojo. And we do have a general principle of justice that one party must not be at such an advantage at arms as to prevent the other party from having a fair trial. So, no, halt that trial, Mrs. Oxo. The Doctor wants proceedings stayed for an abusive process, and I agree. And that's it. If you enjoyed the fun being sucked from all of these magnificent TV moments, then you can like and subscribe for more myth-busting snark and, well, weary lawyer talk.